Hello everyone, and welcome back to Whistling in the Dark. I am Captain Logan.
And I might be the Geoff.
And today, this guy who might be the Geoff and I are going to be tackling everybody's favorite They Might Be Giants album, Flood. Okay, it's not my favorite They Might Be Giants album, but it's the one that folks who don't know TMBG seem to know. And especially folks that, 20 years ago, if they didn't know TMBG, this was the album they knew.
It remains their most successful album?
Mm-hmm. It's the only one that's gone platinum, right? And it was the, I mean, it was a bunch of firsts for them. It was, it got them on The Tonight Show with Birdhouse, and I don't know if you've seen that, but it's awesome.
Yeah, I saw that. I heard Birdhouse on the Dr. Demento show, which is...
Birdhouse was on Dr. Demento?
Dr. Demento played Birdhouse. The only song that I'm aware he ever played.
That's hard to believe, and weird because that was the most mainstream thing they had. You'd think he'd go to, you know, Dead or something.
All over Rabbit Child.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking of other things on that album. Like, you'd think, you know...
Yeah. But, fascinating that.
Letterbox or Bag of Groceries, you know, Dead or... Yeah.
But, yeah. So, Flood... They're, in a lot of ways, their biggest album, and certainly one of their very, very good ones.
Yeah. I would argue that Flood is kind of a cool, I don't know if amalgamation is the right word, but, like, you take those first two albums and you kind of, this kind of feels like streamlining that and polishing it and giving it a whole sound. Like, there's a lot of variety on this album. And obviously plenty of variety in the other two albums too, but like it kind of feels really tweaked and refined. It's like those two albums, but refined,
polished.
Yeah,
it is. It's just more polished, but it still definitely is made of all the ingredients that were wonderful of their first two albums. Everything to love about the Pink album and Lincoln is still right here, and it's in full color.
Yeah, some of that I think also is because of resources.
Yeah,
this is the first. This is their first digitally recorded album, and it's the first. It's the first album they recorded with Flanzy's fancy smanchy new like sampling machine that he had.
Yeah.
And so when you go and research the tracks of this song, it's a lot of Flanzy talking about sounds he recorded in his apartment and different things he got in here, and it's hilarious. And I'm sure he did a lot of that in the first two also, but he was able to capture more sounds, and the playback was easier.
And a lot easier to make musical use of sounds with the equipment they now had.
Yeah, because you take a sound and you put it in that machine and you press a button and now it plays that sound.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and get right into it, shall we? Obviously, in 1990, as we will hear in the first 30 seconds of the album. And I should also mention before we get started that this is a nice feature. This is an album, the only TMBG thing that in depth I have talked about on the channel before.
Really?
Yeah, years ago when Manos and I were still doing the Pop Culture Yearbook.
Oh, right.
It was the one episode where he and I both landed on the same item.
Yeah.
We both picked Flood for 1990, and so we talked for a full 45 minutes, I think, about the Flood that day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's one of my favorite moments with that show and with Manos, because I didn't know he really knew TMBG that much, and of course Manos is your age, and so he was really in that those college radio days, and he was really into that alternative music scene, and so he would have been just
exactly the right
right age for that. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into Flood. If you want to listen to it with us, we have the link to the album in the description there, so click on that and you can listen to it with us. And we're just going to, as we have with the other two videos, listen to this album and chat about it as we do. Here we go. Everybody, please press play. One second. Let me fix this. Everybody, please press play right now.
Again. Why is the world in love again?
Well, I think it's because there's a brand new album for 1990.
Just love the concept of opening an album with this flowers and rainbows kind of optimism.
It's hilarious.
Everything's great.
There is
a new Giants album.
There is one cover of this song that I know about. Dashboard Confessional did a cover album, and they opened their cover album with a cover of that song.
That's amazing.
Which is kind of great, especially because their music is nothing like this.
Yeah.
So we get immediately into Birdhouse. Kind of fun that your big opening track, once again, they were better opening tracks back then, that your big opening track ends up being kind of their biggest hit of all time, arguably maybe tied with Istanbul, which is also on this album.
Yeah. Which, although it was never out as a single.
Istanbul?
Istanbul was not released as a single.
I have a hard time keeping track of that with the Giants.
This one was, of course, but...
Yeah.
It surprised me in a way, because... Or at least as a B-side, you'd think... Being like this, one of the several most iconically Giants songs that it would have been, but
yeah, this album charted in the United States. It peaked at like 75. It charted in the UK much higher. It hit like 14.
I think they like lyrics better over there.
they appreciate cleverness.
Like more of those people can read.
And innovation, yeah. I would argue that part of the reason this song got so popular before anything else is just because it's got a really good mix of the Giants' kind of quirky, kooky flavor, and it still kind of sounds like a mainstream pop song.
It's got the crucial ingredients. I love this modulation here a lot. It's got your 4 on the floor. It's got a good rock beat. It's got a good hook.
It's more accessible than other things they had done previously.
Almost everything on this album is a great sing-along song, but this one is among the most of it.
Would you agree with me if I were to say that this hit people the right way because it was maybe overall more accessible?
Yeah, I mean it's
so
easy to find a way into it.
Yeah, and so you can grab onto something and then it can blow your mind. Because then you have a reason to pay attention to those lyrics. Because you're not put off by it.
Then you get what's brilliant about it. It doesn't shut you out. Like something like The Day.
Right, yeah. Birdhouse strikes me as one of those songs that's worthy of its hype and its fame.
Yeah. And
it really is just that good.
And it's also, poetically, really, clever. I mean, just as plain old poetry. It's about electricity. It's about a nightlight that he had. That one of them had as a kid, I guess. That was a little had old bluebird on it. And it connects to everything. It's got Jason and the Argonauts. And fire and lighthouses. And it develops these ideas in a way that is totally followable.
Which is interesting because it's another one of those songs where they did kind of cram a bunch of ideas and lyrics in because of a melody they had.
Yeah, but I mean it...
But follows maybe a little bit more than Don't Let Start does.
Yeah, it really makes sense.
I mean, I don't entirely know what Jason and the Argonauts had to do with anything, but...
the ship was destroyed by lightning.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Here's another great Giants breakup song.
Yeah, right.
So good at these.
We're at a Lucky Ball and Chain now, but I just wanted to ask you something I've always wondered about. Is Bluebird of Friendliness a reference to Follow That Bird, or in Follow That Bird, was that a reference to something else also?
I think that's an older and larger trope.
Kind of okay. So that's just immediately what I think of.
You hear about the Bluebird of Happiness.
Oh, okay, right. Mm-hmm.
I think Bluebird of Friendliness is a reference to that. 5 Feet Tall and Sick of Me.
This is another one of those really folksy kind of songs.
Yeah. But it moves.
Mm-hmm.
And it has traction. I like this break.
So here you're already hearing Flanzy play with a lot of sounds.
Yeah.
He likes to get into an interlude and just start throwing strange sounds in. See what sounds good.
I could shake my tiny fist. I love that line.
Yeah, me too.
More so now than ever.
Look, we have a rule here on the channel, okay?
Sure as you can steer a train, you can't change your fate. I love that.
Again, hate them for lyric writing I wish I could do, you know? They make me jealous all the time.
I mean, if that had been packaged in a printed book of poetry instead of in a pop song,
yeah,
that would have rated as profound.
So this is the song I was referring to, I think, last video when we were talking about Shoehorn with Teeth. Well, I guess it would have been last video. This is the song that we just talked over. That's got the gunshot in the wrong place.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite things in this album, where you have a line about a gunshot, and then it's a little drum roll. It's gunshot, ba-doom, and then later, unrelated. Love that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Once again, just completely messing with your expectations.
And creating little linkages. Like, and here's what was supposed to be there.
The Giants make songs the way I like to see people make movies, which is every time you listen to it, you pick out something that you didn't notice before.
Good reasons to listen again.
And I think it's one of the reasons that I sometimes... that certain Giant songs end up having to kind of grow on me a little bit. Sometimes almost like a fungus. That wasn't one of them. And actually, I don't think this album is filled with very many of those.
I don't think there are many of those on Flood.
But there were on Lincoln.
Yeah.
There were on the Pink album. That's all Spine is. So, Istanbul opens with not silence, but it takes a while to get into it. And sometimes the song will play and I'll be like, why isn't there music playing? And I think that's partly why it occurred to them to have Dan Miller in concert play his big improvised guitar solo that goes on for 6 years before the song starts, which is one of the most fun things they do in concert now, and they do it every time they play the song. Nearly every time they play the song now.
This is so great, and the first straight up cover.
Yeah.
That they did, at least on an official album.
Yeah, that's true, and we'll get several more. And just like Istanbul, a lot of those songs will be things that people won't realize were covers,
right?
Because they'll be off the beaten path stuff, things that kind of got buried.
In this case, this song is from 1953.
Yeah,
like a novelty song from before any of their fans were born.
And I don't know if you know this, but this was a song, I think somehow both of them knew it and had grown up with it, or maybe it was just, I don't even know if it was just one of them or which one it would have been, but they intentionally didn't go back and listen to it at all when they put this together. And so it is so very much theirs. They're not even looking at the original material. It's sort of like when an actor gets like a beloved role and they don't want to go back and look at what another actor had done with it.
Disney did that all the time.
Yeah, clearly, but that kind of for different reasons that turn out differently. Anyway, but they very much kind of own this song now.
There's so many just fun touches like that.
Yeah,
they do stuff that's just fun. There's almost every song on this album has something in it that's just fun.
When they cover things. Most of the time, and I mean, I'm talking like on studio albums and B-sides and whatever. Like Frankenstein isn't this way, but yeah, but like when they cover, much of the time when they pick a song to cover, it sounds like something they could have written.
Yeah,
and that's what I love about Istanbul. A lot of the really fun lyrical turns of phrase are the kinds of things that would have inspired them to write the way they write.
You can kind of see that they come from a place.
I love the kind of anti. Like real history idea with that song, where it's like ask a real question, like why is it Istanbul not Constantinople? Well, people just liked it better that way. Well, that's probably not what it was. Yeah, it's wonderful. So Dead, I keep referring to. This is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah,
I just love it. I love the simplicity of the way they recorded this. Yeah, I love that it's just a piano. They don't go for
piano.
They don't go for all the crazy sounds and things. Again, it helps to add variety for the album. Looking at this as part of that as a whole, but it's also just a brilliant, clever, insane notion.
Yeah,
I love doing the idea of a song about reincarnation, where you're reincarnated into something completely absurd.
It's a conceit.
Yeah, and there are a number of fun ideas, details inside of that that are not absurd. That are just like truisms you never would have thought to make truisms. I'll never see myself in the mirror with my eyes closed. Well, yes, of course.
Whether I'm still alive and there's nothing I want to do. Like, I can't tell whether I'm dead or alive but bored. Because they're the same somehow.
Yeah. And that would kind of... If somehow or rather you could be cognizant when that was happening, it would feel like the same thing.
I would like so much commercial pop music. So much better if more of it put this kind of thought into their songs.
Yeah, I mean, all you really need is to impress me with a song is to make me think about something in a different way, and to give me something that will be stuck in my head all day. And this does both of those things. And many of the songs on this particular album do that.
Give me something to think about instead of just beating me on the head and telling me not to stop thinking.
Yeah.
This is all I ask.
I mean, it's the opposite of what we tend to do with popular music.
Yeah. Well, therein lies a tale.
And I mean, I love that, obviously, TMBG wasn't really all that concerned with popularity and fame. They were just doing their best to survive with what they wanted to write and play. And
it worked.
And I'm convinced that if they hadn't started playing little shows all the time, they would never have made it.
No, I agree.
They played. We should talk about that too. How many of these songs were things that were written years and years before this album came out. And we talked a little bit about demos before, where they would make a demo track and then years later they would refine it. And a number of the songs on this album, I don't know if Istanbul is that way, but a number of songs on this album were things that they had talked about putting on previous albums that they just didn't quite have there, or didn't know if they fit really.
This is another brilliant song.
Yeah, and this is one of those like more straightforward songs. It's clear what it's about.
Yeah, it's actually kind of serious.
Yeah, it is. And once again, really, really bouncy and happy, and a melody that sticks with you.
They're able to, and
this is your racist friend that we're talking about now.
They're able to write a song about a real topic and say something serious about it without making a song that feels like you're being preached at.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's not oppressive. It's really easy to listen to this 4 or 5 times until you finally...
It's not Sinead O'Connor. It's actually fun music about something serious.
It would be really easy to listen to this 4 or 5 times and finally go, oh wait, this is like this is about a real topical, problematic issue.
Yeah, and they have a way of getting right on the nose once in a while.
I think I should mention this. Yeah, that mariachi bit. This is one of my favorite things musically in a giant song, and I cannot help but whistle this whenever I listen to this in the car.
Boy, and the bridges in these, you'd never guess if you didn't know.
Whoa.
Like if you gave me a list of the songs and what each one was about, and asked me to guess, okay, which one of these is going to use a mariachi trumpet solo in the bridge?
That's a great point. I think
which one of these is going to be railroad spikes hitting a track and saxophone?
I think the most profound and hard-hitting lyric in this is probably "Can't shake the devil's hand and say you're only kidding,"
which also reminds me of
again stuff that is just well, I was going to say stuff that feels really topical even today. And
devil's hand and say you're only kidding.
When I was a kid, that got me.
Yeah.
When you're starting to realize, I mean, I was a preteen teenager when I first heard this song, and you're starting to realize, some of the harsh realities of the world, and you're starting to see some of these things, some of these, this bigotry and stuff in the world.
This was me right in the middle of high school. Like, all the breakup songs in this album resonated so perfectly for me. And This will always be one of those soundtrack of my life kind of albums, just because of where I was when it came out.
Yeah, it's weird when a thing like that is one of the first things that makes you think about, intolerance and inequality and stuff. It was X-Men before, and then it was that song.
Yeah.
Particle Man is another one of those. I think Istanbul and Particle Man are kind of thought of as like the 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Of this album. Some of that is because of Tiny Toons, but I think it might have had that anyway. Particle Man is brilliant because it isn't. That's what I love about it, is that and I'm getting some of this from the Giants talking about interpretation, but it's not really about anything, but but you could so easily read any number of metaphors in it, and I love that. It's a song that comes alive completely apart from anything intended by the authors.
It's totally deadpan, and it's all up to you, and your mind's gonna run with it.
This really sounds like one of the songs that could have been written in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That you just spend your whole life trying to figure out. It becomes an entity in and of itself.
And that Triangle Man hates Parson Man. Okay, they have a fight. Triangle wins. Cue the accordion solo.
This is also one of those songs that easily could have had like 15 more verses.
Yeah.
I don't need more verses, I'm just saying.
But if they had written more verses, I would have listened, and I would have memorized them too.
And again, they were smart to not let this go on too long.
Yeah.
I do feel like if they'd written that song in the Mint Car days, it would have been longer. Yeah. It would have been like 2 minutes longer.
Yeah.
They've come back from that. If they wrote it yesterday, maybe it would be what it was. But they had that period where things were starting to get too much into that like studio rock 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. This is when they were still comfortable writing a 90-second song and walking away. And that was a thing I was so sad to see them lose, and so happy to see them get back.
Yeah.
And the wind. Twisted.
I just want to keep
not your side.
I just want to keep talking about Particle Man.
She doesn't miss you.
I guess this is kind of another breakup song.
Yeah.
2 of those.
That's so good.
In real close proximity. Yeah.
But there's not a lot of things that she'll take back.
They obviously like to get a lot of references to really obscure music that they know about that I don't, that I would have to go look up when I hear about them. Sometimes I wonder if Fresh Fellows. Sometimes I wondered when I was listening to this as a kid if they were making up some of those things or if they were real, and it's almost all real stuff. Yeah. And then you'll find all these lyrics that you didn't realize were callbacks to or straight up rips of lyrics from other songs. And sometimes they do that with bigger mainstream things. Like there's Beatles stuff here and there. We'll talk about that when we get to Hey Mr. DJ. But
yeah, the DBs I was aware of but had never heard any of their music. Not so the Young Fresh Fellows. I don't know them. I have not researched them.
Me neither.
Someday, get around to it. Here we go.
So this is one of those songs. This is another one of the songs that you put on that tape for me. That really grabbed me and made me decide this was like my favorite band. This was one of those. And again, it's because it makes you think of something. I was going to say it makes you think of something in a fresh way. It makes you think of something you wouldn't have thought of in the first place for any reason whatsoever. And then somehow or rather, it ends up feeling like a real universal kind of idea.
Yeah. Just because it is so stupidly abstract.
Yeah.
A rock to wind a piece of string around.
But if you're
going to go with that.
Yeah, but if you really start to think about it, it kind of... I mean, I always thought of this song as almost 2 separate ideas, like when you get to the forehead thing, because it's like, okay, you've got a thing that is useless without something else.
But everybody wants a rock to wind a piece. But,
like, it's universal in that if everybody has a piece of string and there's nothing to do with it, they're going to want something to do with it. Now I can't help but think of like the fidget spinner phenomenon, and then you and then that equates to marketing. So, like, here's the thing that everyone has wanted for a really
wants
believable, understandable reason, and then we sell them things they don't need.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what they were going for, but that's what I always thought the song was kind of about.
And I'd buy a big prosthetic forehead and wear
I think part of the
it
reason
on my
I assumed
head.
that this was kind of
Everybody wants one.
Yeah. Commentary about over commercialization is because it's $7. Why would it cost that much? It's overpriced. It's a thing that's useless that nobody would. I mean, okay, if you actually
$7 is a lot of money.
Yeah, if you actually got a prosthetic forehead, obviously it would be expensive. But I just assumed that in that line it was supposed to be this is kind of
Star Trek.
It's an inordinate amount of money because it's something that why would you need, why would you want that? We live in the cosplay era. In 1990, what do you do with a prosthetic forehead? What's that
Be
about?
an alien on Star Trek.
Yeah. That's about it. I have gotten in the last decade or so into kind of a bluegrass kick, and this maybe helped to start that. This kind of tickles that fancy a little bit, because it's got and also this is that perfect fusion of Linnell and Flansburgh, where I can't tell where one starts and the other ends, because that's just the choice to do kind of like country bluegrassy kind of thing with the fiddles in the background. That sounds like a Flansy idea, but then the execution of it sounds Linnell.
Mr. Horrible.
Mr. Horrible before we had Dr. Horrible.
Yeah. Before we can talk to the ugliness man, there's some horrible business left for him to attend. It's, again, cheerful, a sunny kind of tune. Like, if you didn't know English, you could listen to this. This is a pretty fun song.
Yeah, and you would assume horrible was like a really nice word.
Yeah.
And then the reason he's upset is just so random and bizarre.
Yeah.
And again, tickles that kind of tick bone.
Yeah. The thing I really can't stand is that someone keeps moving my chair. So,
I really want to work up a theory that the tick that the Giants are just writing in the Tick's universe.
Boy, those two fit together.
They just fit together so well.
1990.
Well, I mean, the Tick was 94, but
accidentally was killed.
I mean the cartoon show. And the thing is, I doubt that the Giants even know the Tick. I bet they've never looked at that. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it's hard to know.
Maybe they knew the comic book.
That's very possible.
Greenwich Village, man.
That's actually a really good point you're making. I mean, they are wrapped up in New York City.
I mean, they might.
Yeah.
They might be more likely to know the comic book than the cartoon.
That would probably be the question I would ask them.
Yeah.
If I ever had a chance to ask them one thing, that would be a thing I would love to know.
Feel free to leave an answer in the comments if you have.
If you know the Giants personally, and you can find that out for us.
We'd like to know.
This that section with that syncopation is just kind of brilliant.
Yeah. And they take it all the way out.
Mm-hmm.
I like that about them. The rhythmic sense is just 2 notches more sophisticated than you ever really expect it to be.
They can stall out a song and keep it going all at the same time.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense at all.
We'll see more of that.
Because in some ways, those almost sound like they should belong to 2 different songs. They're really good at that. Because you'll hear, you hear a lot of groups try to do that, where you'll have, obviously you have your chorus and you have your verses, and your chorus will be all about a hook. I'm thinking about like some Offspring songs, where like sometimes there'll be sort of 2 songs that go together, and sometimes they don't at all.
I'm looking at scenes from an Italian restaurant. Which is 2 or 3 songs kind of stuck together.
Yeah. I always forget what this song is called. I always forget this is hearing aid. Because this is going to sound ridiculous. Sometimes this song starts and I forget it has words.
Yeah.
This easily could have been like one of those miscellaneous tracks, miscellaneous tracks that just didn't have lyrics.
Yeah, that little instrumental beginning could have gone on a little farther and then ended and been a totally instrumental track, and it would have been fine. turn off my...
I love it when they play with consonants and things like that.
Yep.
Like, sometimes the lyric writing, and, well, I should say, like the delivery of the lyrics of the singing will kind of get infused with the sound, so they'll almost like sing or just make sounds with their mouths as if it was part of the weird sampling thing they're doing.
And these things together are the music. I like the way they think about
this whole song is built up of just weird sounds Flanzy came up with. This is one of those big examples. It's almost got like an industrial thing going on because of that. And
it is all over Flans.
And I don't mean industrial rock. I just mean it has like like industrial sound.
Some of those sounds sound so factory-ish.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. But not like the musical genre metal. Yeah. See why this is difficult? And you say the word fusion, and now that conjures up a genre.
And then you're talking about a massive incandescent gas.
Right. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I definitely think of the music here before I think of the lyrics. What instrument even is that?
Muted trumpet.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. They can make muted trumpets sound like things that I'm not sure if they're muted trumpets. Because it seems like every time I ask you that question, it turns out to be a muted trumpet.
Yep. Miles Davis. And another little jazz injection.
Yeah. There's a lot of that in this era, certainly. Because we talked about that some with Lincoln. You'll hear...
The Giants know jazz.
You'll hear so much of that when we get to Miscellaneous T.
They don't do a lot of jazz, but clearly they've listened to some and they understand it, and I bet they like it.
Yeah, they do indie jazz fusion, Geoff.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to call it.
I think that term's already been invented.
Oh, okay. I'll just have to make up something that's more preposterous and doesn't actually mean anything. And now, minimum wage. Here we go.
Minimum wage!
Whoop-sha!
I love this song.
That sound, believe it or not, they got that with a towel snapping. They had somebody snap a towel, and they just screwed with the sound in post.
It's really hard anymore to find someone to actually crack a whip.
What, they can do it?
That can actually do it.
Oh, wow.
And do it like in time.
Yeah.
Because, well, we don't use horses for farm labor anymore. We have tractors. And this is a skill that's no longer relevant to
So minimum wage is like a 30-second, 50-something second song. So we're already past it, but we have to talk about it for a second, even though now we're into Letterbox. What do we do, Geoff? We're already into Letterbox.
We'll have to come back to it.
Minimum wage is brilliant because obviously it has no lyrics except for minimum wage, and then once you know that that's the title, you have to know that. Once you know that that's the title of the song and the idea, then the music conjures up everything lyrics could have. It's amazing how understated that is, where they could be really minimalistic, even though they write these wonderful songs like this one with an inordinate number of lyrics that you just want to pull apart and play around with. But minimum wage does all of that inside of lyrics. You've got it's about the mundanity of life. It's about working for nothing. Obviously, it's minimum wage. You get on your elevator and you go up to the 150th floor and nobody cares about you.
Store music.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, yeah. I always think of it as like somebody getting into an elevator and going to a crappy desk job.
Yeah, that's like...
I guess it works for both of those things.
I'm shopping at Sears.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah. So anyway, Letterbox, another one of those songs where you just want to learn all the lyrics.
You want to know she's my best friend, she's a sparrow.
This is one of the songs that you would think would have taken forever to record, and apparently the Giants had already... This is another one of the songs, I think, where they had been playing it for quite a while.
Oh, here we go.
And, yeah... Just too many amazing songs in a row. But yeah,
since this is the song our series is titled on.
Yeah.
The words that it faintly said as I tried to call for help.
Geoff doesn't even want to discuss the song, he just wants to sing it.
I have that problem with this album.
Yeah. So this is...
My high school novel is about this song.
This is the song that... Oh, yeah. I thought about...
That character is...
About pulling that out.
This guy.
I thought about talking to you about seeing if you would let me read some of that novel on camera. But anyway... Flanzy takes a big drum strapped to himself and walks around on stage and beats it. And both the Johns say that they were never happy with that sound. It was never big enough.
Oh.
To the point where, like, they could probably have gotten the sound of an atomic bomb blast and it still wouldn't have been. Yeah. They said it still. They never would have been happy. It never was big enough.
Because this song is about unsubtle.
Yes.
This is about a totally unsubtle guy. Be what you're like. Be like yourself.
Yeah, and it never occurred to me until preparing for this video. Apollo, get down, buddy. It never occurred to me until preparing for this video, or maybe I had forgotten that this song is about a guy in prison.
Yeah.
They've got a couple of things
or
like
in some
that.
kind of institution, or, you know.
Yeah.
Think that I know how to do well. And these brass lines kind of rising and falling. Just nice background instrumentation.
That reminds me a little bit of Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
There's some... Yeah, now I'm listening to this again. There is a little bit of British invasion in this song.
Well, Sgt. Pepper's the album to remind us that there were 5 Beatles. And the 5th one's name is George Martin. And so, to take nothing from the actual 4, but so many of the brilliant things they did in the studio half of their career, they were able to do because they had George Martin on their team.
Yeah.
And the Giants may be doing their own producing, I don't know, but there's this background musical thinking, like the brass line here. When the words run out, that's in 2 instruments, and one of them plays it as it is, and the other one plays it in melodic inversion, almost perfectly. Like, you know,
yeah, that's really sophisticated.
Here it is.
You know what's interesting? The end of all that marching band stuff at the end of State Songs is calling back to this hard.
Yeah. It's a parade. The parade of the insane.
Hot. And then here comes Hotcha.
Where are you? Hotcha.
See, everybody's eyes are closed, and so they're not going to be able to see themselves if they try to look in a mirror. A floating island. Yeah, it is impossible to listen to this album and not just want to sing along. I love these verses so much.
Yeah. They're tuneful, and lyrically, they have just enough images to keep you off your toes, but at the same time to tie things together.
You just keep going. It's cool. I was gonna say
off your toes.
This is on stereo on a cooking bacon. Never came back to tell us why are we doing this. I don't know. No, you're absolutely right when you say imagery. This is just all about that vivid imagery that sticks with you.
Fondue forks for everybody.
Fondue forks for everybody. You notice this is a structure they like to go to. The 3 short verse formula.
Yeah. With a bridge that really gives you time to just sit and think a little.
Yeah. Yeah, like Turn Around has that, but with longer verses.
Yeah.
And number 3 has that.
That time to let the absurdity of what they're saying sink in.
I think number 3 has 3 verses. It has to, right?
Yeah. Then again,
they like to keep you off your toes.
The vessel runs aground, lands where we know.
This is simply a beautiful melody.
Yeah. And with the odd metered measure, in each phrase to keep you off your toes.
Yeah, good call. If we keep saying that, we're gonna think that's
because cheese.
That's what the phrase. Ah, shiny shoes. Yeah, think about all the different styles they're calling to throughout this album. Always doing everything they can to make sure they can't be put in a box or pigeonholed, as John Flansburgh likes to say.
Yep. This is,
or maybe that was a little quote, I can't remember. But there's an interview I read with them where one of them says we pride ourselves on not being pigeonholed.
Yep. I've said
unclassifiable.
I keep saying the Giants were alternative before alternative became mandatory.
Right. Yeah, because then it was like, well, alternative to what?
You know, once Pearl Jam came up and suddenly that sound became an official genre and then became the official genre from 1989 to 1997.
It's about right.
And it got called alternative, and it should never have, because if you want a record store to have a section that says alternative, this is what should be there. Stuff that's not in a category, stuff that really is its own thing.
Women and Men should be in a Broadway play.
Yes, they should.
Like, well, yeah, I mean, you have to have women and men, depending on the story you're telling. I guess there's stories that some have all women, some have all men. But especially like when you think of some of like the call and answer stuff in that song, and like the the male chorus stuff.
Yeah.
It really sounds like I'm thinking of like.
You can see that on stage.
I know this is later than this, but I'm thinking of stuff like Mulan or something. Like that could be in a Disney musical. Like,
did you ever see the Flansburgh musical?
No, I didn't. We were we were talking about that before, and I was debating about whether or not we should put that in here because I am not familiar with it.
I'd love to find it somewhere.
But you listen to a song like that, it makes perfect sense that Flansy tried to do a musical.
Yeah,
and I think
some of the right instincts for it.
I think he wrote that song, but I'm not sure.
Could be.
Because I mean, Linnell singing the verses.
Yeah, I would have guessed Linnell, but
Sapphire Bullets is a brilliant idea. Of course, because of the irony of a bullet that is bullets are usually harmful, but this one is of pure love.
So it's especially harmful.
There's another one of the songs that they wrote. I think this one they wrote well before this album. I don't know if I'm right about that, but I was reading up on this, and they talk about how it's before the Sex Pistols got big. And so, like,
really,
so like, then you kind of have not the same idea, but like, in the name of that band, this weird irony, and so it kind of dates it a little bit. But are you aware of? And we got to talk about the Miami Giants. But are you aware of the? Because I didn't know about this. The stage. Okay, the TMBG cover band that is just TMBG pretending to be their own cover band. They have opened for themselves as their own cover band.
That's awesome.
They play Flood. I think it's in its entirety, and they call themselves the Sapphire Bullets.
That's nice.
It's hilarious.
So this is their either their shout out to Primus or the song from which Primus got its ideas.
I'm not familiar with Primus.
They did the theme music for South Park.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So the opening to this, it's not hard to spot.
There's another song they wrote earlier that they decided probably shouldn't go on the first album because it would be weird.
Yeah. I think you buy enough credibility to then put this on by having such strong songs as Birdhouse and Particle Man.
Yeah. And then there's Spider-Man. It feels like... I think it really adds to the confidence of this album. That, like, we are so sure of ourselves here that this is where we'll put our theme song.
Yeah. This also is one of the earliest of their songs that I can really hear the punk connection to.
Sure.
It's got that got these moments of atonal, kind of smack you in the face sort of sound. Like, we're just making stupid noises now. Well, now we have a song again.
As I'm listening to this may be a weird point to make, but Flanzy, when he sings, and maybe it's just because of what I'm used to listening to him, the register I'm used to listening to him in, but when Flanzy sings high, he sounds like Flanzy. When he goes into a lower register, he almost like disappears.
Yeah. That's why he wondered how he could sing like a girl.
Right. Right, but people let him sing like a girl because then he sounds like himself. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to worry about being stigmatized by the rest of the world.
Yeah. Now this is...
We're already on Road Movie. Wow.
Road Movie to Berlin. This is a song that I don't know if I really like as a song.
Really?
But it's... At the same time, it is brilliant and amazing to me. Because one of the things the Giants songs always do for me is stick in my head.
Yeah.
And this, at the end of the album, unlike the first two albums, where I listen to one of those through, and then those songs are spinning around me for the rest of the day, or week, month.
Yeah.
Flood, if I listen to straight through as an album, all of that stuff is in there, and then this song kind of washes everything clean.
Yeah, it's a brilliant ending song.
And it ends the album in a way that the other two albums don't have endings.
Not in the same way.
Ends the show. This album has an opener that really begins a show and an ending song that ends a
It's
show.
why it makes so much sense to play in its entirety live, right?
Yeah, and it just I wish I understood how this song is so good at sponging away the puddles of free associative goo that have been dripped all over by 17 intervening
Another thing
songs.
we need on a t-shirt.
I think that should be, yeah.
It's and what's great about it, yeah, it's real solemn sounding song for them, and I mean it's about the Berlin Wall, and then but it doesn't like.
Is it?
It doesn't just and it doesn't just or at least they talk about they've talked about that, but it doesn't just fade away.
Yeah.
Like I mean it does at the end, but I mean like you don't get to this and now all of a sudden it's a sleepy song that you lose yourself in. Like I think that bombastic stuff in the middle is important.
Yeah. It's a fully developed song and it has an arc.
Like it still gets your attention.
Yeah.
No, it's a masterpiece record.
Yeah. And how that song accomplishes that has just remained fascinating to me.
So why do you say you don't know if you like it as a song? Is it just because of like the Western horse trotting kind of melody, or
it's okay, but I don't think it would ever have grabbed me by the ear the way the Giant songs that I like the best do.
I mean, think about it, how easy, and I'm so glad they didn't do this, but
probably part of why it works so well.
But like, how easy would it have been for them to
it
put
lets you go by the ear?
How easy would it have been for them to put that stereotypical like a Western movie like behind it?
Blue shadows on the trail.
And then there's a tumbleweed.
Yep. Now I have to watch Three Amigos.
This is an album that you almost could have like listened to twice and had entirely different conversations about, or listen to every song twice. Like there's too much here to unpack. But you have to be,
for money.
You have to be careful about what you unpack. That's
melody, fidelity, quantity.
So with that, we will bid you farewell. Final thoughts about Flood before we head off and get to miscellaneous tea next week.
They've gotten at this point to where they can really put together an anthemic kind of song. And you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was blindsided by that. I wasn't expecting that word.
A lot of these...
There's a vocabulary place
really
you go to listening to TMBG that you don't generally go to.
Yeah, turns out listening to lyrics written by somebody who knows some words.
Yeah, it really opens your mind up, and
it just has a residual effect. But yeah, a lot of those songs, you can be in a crowd and shout along with, and it feels like such a right thing to do.
Yeah.
That and some of the tracks on the first two albums feel that way to me, but almost all of these do.
And again, it's much more cohesive of a whole piece than those.
The album is coherent as a whole structure, and all the links in the chain are really pretty strong.
And it's impressive because it has those tracks that kind of don't seem to be about anything and are just kind of fun to hum along with. And then it's got those tracks that are that, but also really brilliant and make you think about things.
Yeah, and I couldn't name another band that combines that so well and still is so much fun.
There's just there's like a mastery of craft there that I don't think they had in the first two albums.
Yeah, I mean they've clearly grown.
Yeah, I mean that's where they come alive, and they were really smart to not release some of the tracks in the forms they had them before.
Yeah,
where like they waited until they had refined their craft at this point. I mean, it's important to remember that they start around 83, and this is 90. Like they've been doing this for
85, yeah,
for like several years now. But I mean like not when they put their first album out, but when they first get together and start writing music together. So like they've not been a together band that long, like a known band that long, but like they've been working together 7 or 8 years now, and that really shows in the production.
Performance actually was under the name El Grupo
that's
Rock
right.
and Roll.
Yep. And they just did that because
played a concert in Times Square for benefit of the Sandinistas or something.
Yeah, they just had a Spanish-speaking audience, so that's why they did that.
Way before, but yeah, but here we're just seeing them at their stride, and there's growth in their sophistication in songwriting, in their sophistication of lyrics, and in the musical ideas that they're putting together and how they get them together. But there's still nothing about Flood to make a person wish that you could go back to the way they were before.
That's right, and you'll have that with some later things.
Yeah. Sometimes bands grow in ways that are so organic to what they've done before that if you loved them before, you can still love them in exactly the same way, and you just get more of a reward for it. And sometimes it can go through a change that kind of wrecks the things that you used to love about them. And
yeah, because it's not evolution so much as light switch, and I mean, it's worth it to experiment.
Yeah, and the Giants have created so much space for themselves to experiment by resolutely refusing to have any two songs in a row ever have the same groove or the same instrumentation.
Yeah, that you couldn't even call necessarily in the same genre.
Or the same voice, even.
But amazing that Flood still has a sound somehow.
Yeah, it's deep in. It's in their way they associate ideas and the way they put melodies together.
Now, I think if Flood had come out, if Flood had been their first album, I think I would see it as having more of its own distinct tone and flavor than some of their than a couple records we'll talk about later, just because I can see so much of the first two albums in it.
Yeah.
I mean, when we get to Apollo 18, that sounds like nothing else.
Yeah, there a left turn has been taken. Or possibly a right turn, I don't know.
Yeah, like, almost into another... I should save this thought. Almost into another dimension where TMBG was a different kind of band, but still TMBG, like...
A dimension of sight and sound.
Right. So I am very excited about Miscellaneous T.
Yes, me too.
Because there's a lot of cool stuff there that a lot of Giants fans, or I guess just people that kind of kind of know about them but aren't big mega fans of them have heard but don't know where they came from. And like Miscellaneous Tea is weird because it's not an album, but it ought to be, because it's a compilation of B-sides, but it also kind of has a sound, and it almost sounds to me like it should fit in between Lincoln and Flood.
Yeah, it took a long time for me to accept the way of defining terms that does not count Miscellaneous Tea as an album.
Yeah. Which, it's understandable because, again, it was all pre-release material, so that's why you can't count it.
To me, hey, a new Giant CD. I'm going to go buy it.
Yeah.
It has Giant songs on it. I like them. Deal made.
Right, sure. And you can consider it an album in that way, but once we start looking at it as a piece of art,
yeah.
If it's not compiled in any kind of way, and I'm not saying Miscellaneous Tea is not, but I'm just saying, like, if it's pre-release material and the primary point of it is to get that in people's hands that didn't hear it before, it's not a piece in the same way something like Flood or Apollo 18 is.
They haven't gotten together to make a new project.
Yeah. Yeah, and they didn't write any of those tracks or start recording them with a flavor in mind. I think maybe one or two. I'm not sure. I thought that stuff was all pre-released except for like maybe the remix of World's Address.
I mean, it could be. This I do not know.
But we'll get to that next week. So anyway,
coming up next time.
Everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. We'll see you again next week. I am Captain Logan.
And I might be the Geoff.
Let's see you later, folks.